Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel, Doom Productions here, and we're just going to be making a little video today discussing something that we like to use a lot in our videos and we think could use some discussion on and we think might be helpful to you guys. So that topic is aspect ratios.
So what is aspect ratio? So just in simple layman's terms, aspect ratio is the shape of your image. Usually for movies, that's usually a rectangle. For some movies, it's a square or circle. But if you look at comic books all have different aspect ratios. They use really long, skinny frames. They use circular. They use really strange. They can use triangles. They can use really strange shapes. And it's something that I don't think is it's taken advantage of a whole lot in movies.
Yeah, no, people generally like to stick to a couple main aspect ratios, and it makes sense for, like, you know, if you're having a movie play in theaters, you want to take up the whole screen, and that's kind of at a set size. So, you know, you can understand at an industry level why it's less common, but especially at the indie level or the folk filmmaking level, I think it's something that people could take advantage of more and play around with their framing, and not even just keeping it one frame for the whole movie, but even from scene to scene or shot to shot, having a lot of fun with that.
Aspect ratio is really important when it comes to conveying a mood or message in your movie, because the look of a close-up, for instance, if you frame that in a super widescreen shot, you're going to cut off the top and bottom of the face. Now that can have an effect, and that can have a cool effect. They've done that in older movies before, where it has this really awesome cowboy look. But usually, if you want a really kind of soft, intimate close-up of a face, it might be better to go 4:3, where you see a little bit more of the shoulders. You can see the whole face. Using different aspect ratios has a different effect on people and how you kind of feel and interpret an image. It's really important in terms of telling your story. And it's a tool that you should think about. And we think for sure that when you are making a movie, that's absolutely something that you should decide on beforehand, or have a plan when you're going to film your movie. Because if you just keep your movie, I think 16:9 for digital cameras, right?
Yeah.
If you just keep it 16:9, that's fine. But think about your images when you're putting together your movie, and you might have some really cool other ideas and things you can play with when you start talking about aspect ratio.
Yeah, and another thing that your aspect ratio can really help with and benefit your movie is if you're filming in a place where you don't, if you're making it your own movie, you probably don't have like a lot of time to set dress and make your whole area look perfect. So it could very well be, just a foot away from the edge of your frame looks really bad and isn't what you want people to be able to see in your shot. So having a super wide aspect ratio is really going to be difficult for your setup. So having a narrower, like a 4:3 or even a 1:1 aspect ratio could really help in terms of making your set look a whole lot better. And again, also like the way it portrays your actors. I shot a movie recently called House, where the movie was shot vertically, and I really loved that because you could frame a whole person in the shot standing at these really cool low angles, and you didn't have all this darkness on the sides. It was just, you could really isolate your characters in the shot. I think that was just one way that I really, really enjoyed using a non-traditional aspect ratio.
Like Ethan said, it's usually I think it's 1:8:5 or 2:3:9. Those are kind of the set standard aspect ratios. And if you veer too much outside of that, think people kind of look at you strange, like you're odd for thinking about it. But if you compare it to painting or comic books or drawing or anything, they don't have set aspect ratios. They just have a piece of paper, or they have a drawing tablet, or they have whatever, and they make it whatever size or shape they want. And so I think movies are limited right now in terms of most people's perceptions of it, because to most people, movies are rectangle, or they're a really wide rectangle. So really playing with that and kind of embracing that, the idea of you don't have to stay in the box or rectangle. It's same with cinematography, or same with like lighting. Those aspect ratios, just another tool for you to use to help tell your story. And we think that in general, it's just something people don't think about a whole lot.
We'd encourage you to experiment a lot with it and kind of, I don't know, think about it in a different way, because it really does start to change how you perceive your movie. I think there have been times where we've shot films in the past where we weren't sure going into it. Like we didn't think about the aspect ratio until editing, but we definitely found that changing it from how we shot it, which would be 16:9, changing it into something different really helps elevate like our work. And just the more we've done that, the more we've wanted to incorporate it more into our pieces. So that means we have more circle aspect ratios or like really narrow aspect ratios that playing right next to really wide ones. And we'll play with that even in, from shot to shot, it'll be completely different just because it really can impact a shot in a way that makes it either work really well, or if you use the wrong aspect ratio or the wrong framing, it could make your composition really weak and kind of distracting. And that's not to say you should be unintentional with it or just be throwing weird aspect ratios on for the heck of it. I mean, I think there is a point where you can go overboard, but as I do think we have the luxury in this format of YouTube filmmaking, internet filmmaking, where we can really play with those things and push the boundaries of where aspect ratio can be. So don't be afraid to kind of take those risks and really try those things out.
So over the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing a video, probably on Friday, and we're going to be talking about different aspect ratios and the effect they have, and maybe going through a little bit of the history and how they look and how you can use that size of image to help tell your story, and just kind of break down what these aspect ratios mean or how you can use them.
Yeah. So, and we're just going to give some suggestions, like I think one each from us, of just a movie that does kind of have different or unique aspect ratios that I've come out either recently or not too long ago. So I just want to bring up The Lighthouse by A24 Films. That's a phenomenal movie. What's the director's name? I forgot.
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers directed this film. I totally remembered that. Yeah. That movie has, what was it?
1:2 to 1.
1:2 to 1 aspect ratio, so much more square. Very much shot like an older film, which actually is pretty cool because it's that aspect ratio has been extinct for a really long time, so it's cool they brought it back. Yeah.
And then my suggestion is Lucy in the Sky, directed by Noah Hawley with Natalie Portman, and it's a movie where they use, I think, 3 different aspect ratios throughout. I think they use 4:3. I think they also use 1:8:5, and I think they also use 2:3:9. I'm not sure on the exact specifics, but they do use a bunch of different aspect ratios throughout. And I think it's a good exercise or a good example of how you can use aspect ratio to help inform the themes and the characters in your movie. So that's a great movie to check out and to see how you can use different aspect ratios within the same story. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we look forward to sharing more of this information with you guys over the next couple of weeks. Be on the lookout for that. Hit the bell, hit the subscribe, hit the likes, or the dislikes. That's cool too, I guess. Leave a comment down below of your favorite aspect ratio.